Hello YouTube. I haven't done a video in a long time. So, just a bit of a status update before I start the video. I recently had surgery on my shoulder to stop it from dislocating from a time when I got a seizure, which dislocated it in the first place, which caused it to be susceptible to further dislocations even after being put back in, so I had some surgery to take care of that. So that kept me a bit busy. In fact, it's still keeping me a bit busy. And I've had trouble coming up with videos, and I've been kind of lazy, so yeah. And I've had some other stuff going on in my life, so yeah, but now for the video. You see, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm not gonna like really debunk a video. I'm gonna like just debunk a concept or kind of like explain how things really work. And you're just gonna see my screen like this. You're not gonna see like the an Ancap cat avatar federal pop up or anything. So anyways, what happens to criminals in Ancapistan? I mean, a lot of people have this weird idea that criminals would just run rampant in Ancapistan, and that wouldn't be true at all. You see, for starters, a lot of crime, crime and criminals to be prevented in the first place in Ancapistan. Like, if you don't have prohibition for stuff such as the war on drugs or consensual prostitution, you get rid of a lot of crime. Who would have thought? Like, not only victimless criminals, but also organized criminals. You know, like violent cartel members like El Chapo, he wouldn't exist if there was no war on drugs in Mexico or the US or otherwise. He would never have become a thing. So, that's one thing that happens to criminals in Ancapistan, is a lot of them are prevented in the first place. You know, you don't have this stupid government policy that just does all this shit and then still has the audacity to claim it's doing otherwise and it's doing a good thing when it's not. Another thing that would happen to criminals in Ancapistan is like, what about the crime? What about the crime that still does happen? The criminals that still do what they do. Well, you'd be able to defend yourself readily. Like, you wouldn't need to have wait periods for a gun, to buy a gun. You wouldn't have to have background checks. You wouldn't have to have licensing for carrying, whether it be open or concealed. You wouldn't have limits on what guns you could buy. Or even have a limit, or even have licensing required to make or sell guns. So you could readily get the protection you need to keep yourself safe. That strikes fear in the criminals. They don't want people to be able to do that. Places like California that have tons of laws against, you know, carry, and Illinois, like in Chicago, you know, that have tons of laws against open carry. Criminals love those places because, hey, their victims are less armed less often. So in Ancapistan, you don't have to deal with that shit where you have to get the government's permission to do anything with a gun, really. You don't need that. And you don't have to worry about killing someone that breaks into your home. You don't need, like, a duty to retreat or anything like that. It's just, you know, they break into your home, you do what it takes. You know, that's it. Another thing that will happen to criminals in Ancapistan is, sorry, that was my cat. I had to spray in the air to get her to move. Another thing that'll happen in Ancapistan, the criminals, is they'll get their just punishments. Like, you wouldn't let, or people wouldn't let people that do really serious crimes out of prison with like a slap on the wrist. Like, if you're a pedophile, I'd say you get at least 60 years behind bars or something. That's just kind of a guess, but that's pretty severe. Yeah, I know they don't generally do so well in prison. Other prisoners kick them around or even kill them or even rape them. But some get a slap on the wrist, so they don't really have to deal with that. Or so, if you're a rapist and you get found guilty, you'll actually go to prison. Because there's, here's the funny thing with the U.S. justice system. You can get proven guilty for a crime. You can be caught and proven guilty for a crime, and yet not incarcerated, which is really odd. Like for rape, which is really sad and really odd. It's like you caught the guy, he's guilty, and you're just gonna let him go. Really weird, I know, but hey, that's the justice system for you. Also, you wouldn't have this statute of limitations bullshit where holding someone accountable for a crime, punishing for someone a crime simply expires. It's like, if you evade the law long enough, you don't have to go to jail for this shit. Even if it's rape. Well, I heard statute of limitations doesn't exist for murder, but for rape it does. And that's scary. A person can violate another person with their genitals, and if they just lay low for a while, they don't get in trouble for it, even if it does come to light what they did. So you wouldn't have that in Ancapistan. You do the crime, you do the time. I believe, or I'd imagine, you'd have some decent rehabilitation of criminals in Ancapistan. Because you have a justice system has every incentive in a free market society to actually fix things. It doesn't in a government society, in a statist society. In a statist society, just as all you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. I was like, okay, this is what you get. What more do you want? We try and put people in jail. We even try and kill them if necessary. But with competing justice systems, you'll have ones that rehabilitate criminals better than others, and people will strive to get those ones. Remember, rehabilitating criminals is better than not rehabilitating them. No more repeat offenders. You want to make it so these people don't want to do the bad stuff they did ever again. I mean, it doesn't make sense to just throw someone into a cell only to release them if they have anything less than the death penalty or a life sentence or essentially a life sentence, back on the streets to have them reoffend again. That doesn't make any sense. If you're going to release criminals back into society, they better be fixed. They better be cured or changed of their violence. So you'd have that being taken a bit more seriously in Ancapistan than the current state of society. The current state of societies we have. Oh, here's a really big one. Police brutality. Well, if cops are brutal, which would make them criminals in and of themselves, you have protocol against this shit, or brutal, they not only get fired, they get, charged and incarcerated by their private security police force. They'd be dealt with accordingly. It wouldn't be like in a state society where you have to practically beg the law to convict someone. No, it's like they do something really bad, they get fired on the spot, and even incarcerated, even prosecuted on the spot. So you wouldn't have to worry too much about police brutality in Ancapistan because it just isn't good for business. People quickly go to another private security company or police force if this one just ain't cutting it. I guess somewhat similar, not exactly related to crime, but related to defense and violence regardless, is military. But no, now that I think of it, crime does happen in the military. You have rape, unfortunately, which sucks. I don't think the government invests too much time in dealing with that. The U.S. government, at least, considering it keeps happening a lot. So in Ancapistan, you'd have militaries that make sure to deal with that shit accordingly. Arrest a soldier who rapes. Fire a soldier that rapes and arrest them. This isn't that hard to conceptualize. And as for the military, but the original point was, you wouldn't have a military that just goes in other countries for oil or politics or any of that shit. You're a military in a stateless society, and stateless societies would just be about protecting the societies that they're hired by. Who would have guessed? It wouldn't be about, like this shit, like annexing Crimea and then trying to take over Ukraine like Russia is trying to do now, or any of that crap. It would just be about, hey, we protect our own, and we don't invade it. I guess, in a sense, people would be neutral. It'd be like Switzerland, kind of. Switzerland is, of course, government military, public military, where they have, like, people have mandatory military service, the populace. That's still a government policy. That's not exactly free market or freedom, since it's a draft. It's conscription. But the military is neutral there, so they don't go in other countries and screw things up for everyone. So there's that. Okay, so, basically, a lot of criminals are prevented, a lot of crimes prevented, like, if you get rid of opportunity for crime, you get rid of a lot of crime and the individuals that would otherwise do it. Who would have thought? Oh yeah, preventive measures. I believe you'd have more preventive measures for crime, education with how people should deal with their problems rather than going on a murderous rampage. I guess you'd have more of that in Ancapistan. Okay, so the main points are, okay, you prevent crime by not having stupid policies. You have prevention of crime. You have to train people not to do crime. You deal with crime by having adequate self-defense. You have a good privatized police force. And you have rehabilitation. Like 5 main points. Or you could add that anyone can protect anyone, so that helps too. So, that's basically it, how you would deal with crime in Ancapistan. You wouldn't use government to do it. You wouldn't have stupid policies that only perpetuate crime. You wouldn't be neglectful towards criminals. You'd actually try to rehabilitate them, make sure they don't do the shit they did that rightfully landed them in jail in the first place. You'd have adequate self-defense. You have preventive measures. And you would have a police force that actually be efficient and accountable. So yeah. Sorry I was gone for so long. Sorry I'm gone for long. Sorry I'm bad with descriptions. I wish I need to be better at how to just write this shit out on the video for what it's about. I don't know why I suck at that. And I really need to get better at status updates because I simply stay silent about why I'm not there, and that's not good. So, yeah, that's what I have to say so far. Hope this video matters or makes an impact in ANCAP consciousness, that kind of thing. See you later, and may we eventually be free.